Understanding Nigeria's Cabotage Law, the basics. Nigeria's Cabotage Law is a very important piece of legislation for the country's maritime sector. This law is formally known as the Coastal and Inland Shipping Cabotage Act 2003. It was officially enacted in the year 2003. The main purpose of this act was to bring significant changes to how shipping activities are conducted along Nigeria's extensive coastline and its inland waterways. It aimed to create a new framework for maritime operations within the nation's territorial waters, focusing on national interest and development for Nigerian citizens and businesses involved in the maritime world. This law represented a deliberate effort to regulate and control the maritime traffic and commerce occurring close to Nigeria's shores and on its rivers. The primary objective behind the Cabotage Act is quite clear and specific. It is designed to reserve the commercial transportation of goods and services within Nigerian coastal and inland waters exclusively for vessels that fly the Nigerian flag. Furthermore, these vessels must be owned by Nigerian citizens. This means that ships involved in domestic trade, moving cargo from one Nigerian port to another, should ideally be Nigerian. The law seeks to ensure that Nigerians are the primary beneficiaries of the economic activities happening in their own waters. This focus on indigenous participation is a cornerstone of the legislation, aiming to build local capacity. So what exactly does coastal trade or cabotage entail under this law? It refers to a range of maritime activities. These activities include the transport of goods between any two points within Nigeria's waters. It also covers the carriage of passengers by sea or other waterways from one Nigerian location to another. Additionally, services related to the exploration, exploitation, or transportation of mineral or non-living natural resources in Nigerian waters fall under this definition. Essentially, any commercial maritime activity that begins and ends within Nigeria's aquatic domain is considered cabotage trade, and the law aims to keep this business for Nigerians. A key provision of the Cabotage Act is the restriction it places on foreign vessels. Foreign-owned or foreign-crewed vessels are generally not permitted to engage in domestic coastal trade in Nigeria. This restriction is fundamental to protecting the interests of local shipping companies. However, the law does acknowledge that there might be situations where Nigerian vessels are not available or capable of performing certain specialized tasks. In such specific circumstances, the Act allows for waivers to be granted. These waivers permit foreign vessels to operate, but they are intended to be exceptions rather than the rule, ensuring the spirit of the law is maintained. One of the most significant aims of the Cabotage Law was to substantially boost local participation in Nigeria's maritime activities. Before the Act, there was a considerable presence of foreign-owned vessels and companies dominating the coastal trade landscape. This dominance meant that much of the revenue and opportunities generated within Nigerian waters were controlled by external entities. The Cabotage Act sought to shift this balance decisively. By reserving coastal trade for Nigerian citizens and Nigerian-owned vessels, the law intended to reduce foreign control significantly. This change was envisioned to empower local entrepreneurs and businesses in the maritime sector, giving them a much stronger foothold in their own domestic market. Another crucial intention behind the law was the promotion and development of indigenous shipping capacity. This involves more than just reserving trade. It means fostering an environment where Nigerian companies can grow, acquire more vessels, and enhance their operational expertise. The idea was that by being guaranteed a market, local firms would be encouraged to invest in their fleets and manpower. Furthermore, the law aimed to retain capital within the country. When foreign companies dominate, profits are often repatriated, leading to capital flight. By ensuring that maritime revenues from coastal trade accrue to Nigerian entities, the law sought to keep these financial resources circulating within the Nigerian economy, thereby contributing to national wealth. The Cabotage Act was also seen as a vital tool for economic diversification and growth. Nigeria's economy has historically been heavily reliant on oil revenues. Developing a robust indigenous maritime sector offers a pathway to diversify economic activities. By promoting local maritime trade, the law supports the growth of ancillary industries and services, from shipbuilding and repair to maritime logistics and insurance. This has the potential to boost overall local economic growth by empowering a wide range of indigenous operators. The vision was for a thriving maritime ecosystem driven by local talent and investment, contributing meaningfully to the gross domestic product beyond the oil and gas sector. A major anticipated advantage of the Cabotage Law was its potential for job creation for Nigerians. The maritime industry is labor-intensive, requiring a diverse range of skills, from seafarers and engineers to port workers and administrative staff. By reserving trade for Nigerian vessels, which are required to be crewed by Nigerians, the law aimed to open up numerous employment opportunities. This focus on local employment was also linked to the promotion of local skill development. As the indigenous shipping sector grew, there would be an increased demand for trained maritime professionals, encouraging investment in training institutions and the development of local expertise in various maritime disciplines. This would lead to a more skilled workforce. Despite the clear objectives of the Cabotage Act, its effectiveness in developing Nigeria's internal water transportation system has been significantly undermined by several persistent challenges. One of the most frequently cited issues is the frequent granting of waivers to foreign companies. These waivers, intended as exceptions, have reportedly become quite common, allowing foreign vessels to continue dominating coastal trade in many areas. This practice directly contravenes the spirit of the law. Coupled with this is the problem of poor enforcement of the Act's provisions. Even when waivers are not granted, a lack of robust monitoring and enforcement mechanisms means that non-compliant operations can continue unchecked, hindering the growth of truly indigenous operations. Another critical factor is the severe lack of indigenous capacity, particularly in terms of vessel ownership. Many Nigerian ship owners simply do not possess the required number or types of vessels to meet the demands of coastal trade. This gap is exacerbated by significant vessel financing issues. The Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund (CVFF) was established under the Act specifically to provide financial assistance to Nigerian citizens and companies for the acquisition of ships. However, as of early 2025, a staggering 21 years after its establishment, a large portion of this fund has reportedly remained undisbursed. This failure to provide accessible finance has crippled the ability of local operators to build their fleets, leading to continued foreign vessel dominance and increased capital flight. Regulatory and compliance challenges also present substantial hurdles. Nigeria's maritime legal and regulatory systems are, in some aspects, considered complicated and outdated, hindering the effective implementation of modern maritime policies like the Cabotage Act. While new measures, such as the Waterways Transportation Code introduced in 2023 to standardize operations and minimize accidents, are steps in the right direction, compliance remains an ongoing challenge. Furthermore, the nation suffers from significant infrastructure deficiencies. Many Nigerian ports are congested and feature outdated, sometimes dilapidated infrastructure, with reports of sections experiencing near or total collapse. These conditions increase operational costs and reduce the competitiveness of any operator, local or foreign, trying to utilize them. Security issues within Nigeria's maritime domain further complicate the development of internal water transportation. Persistent problems like piracy, armed robbery at sea, and illegal oil bunkering create a hazardous operating environment. These security threats not only endanger lives and property, but also increase insurance costs and can deter investment in the sector, despite efforts to improve maritime security. Adding to this is a noticeable shortage of skilled maritime professionals. There is a lack of sufficient numbers of qualified seafarers, marine engineers, and logistics experts, partly due to a brain drain of talent and insufficient funding for comprehensive maritime training programs, which are essential for a thriving indigenous industry. Bureaucratic bottlenecks and instances of corruption further entangle the path to realizing the full potential of the Cabotage Law. Overlapping mandates and bureaucratic inefficiencies within the various maritime regulatory agencies can create confusion and delays, discouraging investment and smooth operations. When multiple agencies have unclear or conflicting roles, it becomes difficult for businesses to navigate the regulatory landscape effectively. Large-scale corruption, unfortunately, can also complicate regulatory enforcement and compliance, potentially allowing unqualified or non-compliant operators to bypass rules, thereby undermining the level playing field that the Cabotage Act aims to create for indigenous companies. This environment makes it harder for legitimate local businesses to thrive. Moreover, Nigerian indigenous operators face intense competition from well-established foreign shipping companies. These international firms often have significant advantages, including greater access to capital, more extensive operational experience, larger and more modern fleets, and established global networks. Local firms, on the other hand, frequently struggle with limited technical expertise, high operational costs partly due to infrastructure issues, and the aforementioned restricted access to financing. This imbalance makes it difficult for emerging Nigerian companies to compete effectively, even within their own domestic waters, despite the protective measures intended by the Cabotage law. The playing field remains uneven in practice. Policy gaps and a lack of consistent implementation of existing policies also hinder local content development in the maritime sector. For true indigenous growth, a comprehensive and consistently applied set of reforms is necessary. There have also been reports of unfulfilled agreements by concessionaires in the port system, where commitments related to equipment upgrades and training programs for Nigerians have not been fully met. Alongside these operational and policy issues, environmental concerns such as marine pollution from oil spills and indiscriminate waste dumping have damaged coastal ecosystems and impacted the livelihoods of communities reliant on these waters, adding another layer of complexity to sustainable maritime development. Despite the substantial volume of trade passing through Nigerian waters, which reportedly grew from 36 trillion naira in 2019 to 71.9 trillion naira in 2023, a significant portion of local companies find themselves excluded from the most lucrative maritime activities. This situation leads to considerable capital flight, as revenues generated from these activities often leave the country. Efforts are ongoing, such as the Single Window Initiative, aimed at integrating the processes of various government agencies at the ports to reduce human-to-human contact and improve efficiency. However, as of early 2025, full integration is still a work in progress. The journey to fully unlock the Cabotage law's benefits requires addressing these deep-seated and multifaceted obstacles comprehensively.
If you like my YouTube videos, well, do subscribe, like and follow me on TikTok, Instagram and X.com.